social contagion, there's this fascinating research on social contagion. And the idea behind it is that we catch behaviors and we catch emotions from other people without even realizing it. So, for instance, we've all had that experience where we get in an elevator and someone's on their phone. And we, without even thinking about it, take out our phone and we on our phone as well. So if we extend that, if you, for instance, are on an airplane and you're trying to lose weight, for example, and your seatmate buys candy, even if you do not know that person, what the research shows is that your chance of buying candy increases by 70%.
70%?
70%.
Oh, my God.
So now extend this out. What we know is that large-scale epidemiological studies show that if people, even within, that we don't even know, 2 or 3 degrees of separation from us, get divorced or put on weight, it significantly increases our chances of getting divorced or putting on weight. So you're like, oh my goodness, what is actually going on here? But we've all experienced that. We go out for dinner and someone orders dessert, and so we order dessert. So what starts to happen is, in so many ways, without realizing it, we start wanting things that other people want. We start comparing. We start normalizing behaviors. And we see this at work. Everyone's stressed. We get stressed. We see it at home. How do you protect against that? How do you stay the course of what is important to you? And there's just this wonderful, wonderful work that shows that what is called values affirmation. So even spending 10 minutes thinking about who is the parent that I want to be, who is the leader that I want to be, starts to bring those values front of mind and actually protects us from the social contagion.
Right. So, excuse me, a couple observations on that. The first thing is that so much of this idea of values is really at the foundation of everything, because it creates this cascading effect on behaviors down the line. But it requires maintaining a sense of clarity about what those values are and keeping them front of mind, right, as a driving force. So I would presume that requires some practice and some effort to always be like, okay, well, what are my values and what am I doing, and how do my actions align or not align with what I'm doing presently or what I plan to do? And then secondarily, how do you distinguish values from goals?
So the first thing that I would say is I think that, values are foundational here, but in order to even start understanding our values, we need to be able to be in a space with ourselves, with our emotions, with our being that is not in struggle, where we are able to be accepting and where we are able to be compassionate towards our experience, because it's out of that we discern our values. The difference that I make between values and goals is that goals have an end point. You might say, I want to run this amount, and that is a goal, and it's something that's actually achievable. But a value is actually different. It's a life direction. So you never reach a stage, for instance, where you say, I am a good friend, or I am a good husband, or I am, I am a fair person. Rather, a value is a direction that you're trying to move yourself in. But you never reach a point where you say, I am X. So the distinction that I make is that
intimate relationships are a core value, or like sort of, basically fertilizing the intimacy of my relationships is important to me.
Yes.
And as opposed to I want to run this far, it would be I want to live a active, fitness-oriented lifestyle.
Right. So when applied to relationships, for instance, you might say being connected and intimate and being one of the things that I think about in my relationship, for instance, is I want what I call a clean relationship. That for me is a value. It doesn't sound like a value, but what I mean by a clean relationship, I mean a relationship in which I am able to have conversations that are important and meaningful with my husband without there being a whole lot of baggage about the conversation. So I feel like it's super important for us that we can go to difficult places and have meaningful conversations, whether it's about religion or money or raising children, without there being these kind of no-go zones, because each of us are bringing our stories. So that's what that might look like. You might have a value about a particular relationship. The way you might enact that value is through particular goals. So you might be saying, I'm going to make sure that a couple of times a week I have good one-on-one time with this person. So that's what a goal might look like, which is very tangible, but it's the value that
Right.
that
Yeah. One of
drives
the
that.
examples you used is, when your spouse comes home or your partner, like, don't be on your phone, like put the phone down, or make sure that you're present and available for whatever exchange.
So this is exactly, when you were saying earlier about, of course, the values are these things that when they are front of mind are very, very powerful. We know that values help us to enact and access greater levels of willpower to create effective, sustainable changes in our lives and so on. But of course, they require some cognitive effort because you're always trying to be, what's the value? And so this is where habits become so important. And this is where work on habits and how to create habits become important. So, for instance, in the example that you give, if your value is a value about intimacy and connection in your relationship, but you know that you have a particular habit, and that habit is to bring your cell phone to the table every night, and that stops your opportunity. I can see a look of recognition there.
Yeah, well, I live in the modern world.
So, but if that focus is something that's important to you, then one of the things that I describe in my book is how we can make values-aligned habit changes and tweaks. So, say, for instance, you come home from work and you always put your keys in a particular drawer. We know that there's a very powerful way of changing habits called piggybacking, where you've already got a habit that you're engaging in, and so you now piggyback a new habit onto that. And so you put your keys in the drawer and you put your cell phone into the drawer as well.
Right,
so
which makes the habit adoption a lot easier.
Correct.
Right?
And so you're not needing to constantly think about, what is my value here? Because you're making habit changes that are values aligned.